Hello students, I am teacher Svetlana and in our today's lecture in chemical coordination we will learn about the major endocrine glands which I have divided into part 1 and part 2. Today we will deal with part 1 which is covered in the chapter control and coordination. The first among the endocrine glands is the hypothalamus. It is a basal part of the diencephalon, that is the forebrain. It regulates a wide range of body functions. We have neurosensory cells produce hormones which regulate synthesis and secretion of the pituitary hormones. Two types of hormones we have: releasing and inhibitory. Releasing hormone, they stimulate the secretions of the pituitary hormones. For example, the gonadotrophin releasing hormone. Inhibitory hormone, that is inhibits secretions of the pituitary hormones. Example, stomatostatin. Have a look at this image here. Can you see this tiny region here? This is your hypothalamus and this is your pituitary gland. Students, a list of the hormones secreted by the hypothalamus is given in your textbook on page 209. So you can refer to that page for the examples of the hormones of the hypothalamus and know about their functions. Then the next gland is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is the smallest gland. Pituitary gland is a pea-sized reddish-gray colored gland. Have a look at this image here. I've shown you earlier also. This small region, this is your pituitary gland. It is magnified for you in this image. It controls almost all other endocrine glands. Hence, earlier it was called as the master endocrine gland. It is located just below the hypothalamus and is attached to it by a stalk called as infundibulum or the hypophyseal stalk. Pituitary gland remains lodged in a bony depression called stella turcica of the splenoid bone. Pituitary gland consists of two lobes called anterior lobe, that is adenohypophysis, and posterior lobe called as neurohypophysis. Both the lobes develop from different parts of the embryo. Hence, it has a dual origin. Neurohypophysis is connected directly to the hypothalamus by axon fibers. Adenohypophysis and intermediate lobes are connected to the hypothalamus through hypophyseal portal system. Students, the pituitary gland is also called as hypophysis gland, and we have the adenohypophysis. It is the larger lobe of your pituitary gland. It is highly cellular and vascular part of your pituitary gland. It contains various types of epiploid secretory cells, acidophils, basophils, chromatophores. It is differentiated into three parts: pars distalis, pars intermedia, and pars tuberalis. Here you can see in this diagram these parts are highlighted. Here students, I have just jotted down a quick glance for you of the hormones that are part of your adenohypophysis and what happens due to either a oversecretion or less secretions of these hormones. Here in this diagram, it gives you an overview of all the hormones that are secreted and their locations where they perform their functions. So you can pause the video for a while and have a look at this image. Oversecretions of growth hormone stimulates abnormal growth of the body. Example, gigantism. Low secretions of growth hormone results in stunted growth called as dwarfism. Prolactin regulates the growth of mammary gland and formation of milk in them. The thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormones from the thyroid gland. Then we have the ACTH, which is your adenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the synthesis and secretion of steroid hormones, that is glucocorticoids, from the adrenal cortex. The luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone stimulate gonadal activities. The MSH, that is the melanocyte stimulating hormone, acts on the melanocytes and regulates pigmentation of the skin. Oxytocin acts on smooth muscles of our body and stimulate their contraction. Vasopressin acts on kidneys and stimulates a reabsorption of water and electrolytes by distal tubules and hence reduce loss of water through urine. So it also acts as an ADH, that is an antidiuretic hormone. Let's move to another gland, which is pineal gland. The pineal gland is given off from the roof of the diencephalon and is located between the two cerebral hemispheres. Have a look at this diagram here. Can you see this small tiny dotted region? It's highlighted for you. It's called as your pineal gland. The pineal gland is sensitive to the biochemical signals of light. It secretes a hormone called as melatonin and is also known as sleep hormone. Melatonin is derived from the tryptophan and plays a very important role in regulation of the body clock, that is the 24 hours diurnal rhythm of our body. It helps in maintaining the normal rhythm of the sleep-wake-up cycle and also influences the body temperatures, metabolism and reproductive cycles. The next important gland is the thyroid gland. It is the largest endocrine gland. This bilobe gland is situated in front of the trachea just below the larynx. Have a look at this image here. It's present in the front of the trachea. This is your larynx. Just below it we have the thyroid gland situated. It is richly supplied with blood vessels. The two lobes of the thyroid glands are connected to a non-secretory band called as isthmus. The thyroid lobes are composed of rounded follicles held together by intrafollicular connective tissue called as stroma. The stroma contains blood capillaries and small group of parafollicular cells or C cells called as clear cells. These secrete calcitonin that regulates concentration of calcium and phosphorus in the blood. Thyroid follicles are composed of cuboidal epithelium resting on a basement membrane and is filled with a gelatinous colloid. Thyroid gland is stimulated to secrete its hormone by thyroid stimulating hormone, that is the TSH. Follicular cells synthesize two hormones, that is T4 and T3. Iodine is essential for normal hormone synthesis in the thyroid. Now, what is the role of this thyroid hormone? Regulations of the basal metabolic rates, process of RBC formation, control the metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats, maintenance of water and electrolyte balance, secrete protein hormones called as thyrocalcitonin, which regulates blood calcium levels. Then we also have certain disorders that are associated with the hyper and hyposecretions of the thyroid hormones. Let us have a look at it. The hyperthyroidism, high levels of thyroid in the body, which can cause goiter or the Graves' disease, which is characterized by protruding eyes. There is also an increased BMR and weight loss. Increased BMR produces a range of effects like increased heartbeat, increased BP, high blood temperatures, nervousness, irritability, tremors of fingers, and blurring eyeballs. Hypothyroidism, deficiency of the thyroid hormone or removal of the thyroid gland leads to this problem. It could lead to cretinism in infants and myxoderma in adults. Now, in cretinism, there is hyposecretion in infants. A cretin has reduced BMR and low oxidation. They are short-statured because the skeleton fails to grow. They are mentally retarded. They show dry skin, thick tongue, prolonged neonatal jaundice, lethargy, constipation. So these infants show stunted physical growth and delayed puberty and also mental retardation. Then we have myxoderma in adults. It is characterized by peculiar thickening and puffiness of the skin and subcutaneous tissues, particularly of the face and extremities. So, and you also have this simple goiter. This happens due to iodine deficiency, which is needed for the synthesis of your thyroid hormone. Moving to the next gland, that is the parathyroid glands. 4 parathyroid glands are present on the backside of the thyroid gland, one pair each on the 2 lobes of the thyroid gland. Have a look at this image here. This is the image that you saw for your thyroid gland. This is your thyroid gland. Here, when in the posterior view, you can see these four round pulp-shaped structures, oval structures. These are your four parathyroid glands. They secrete peptide hormones called as parathormones, PTH, or they are also called as Collips hormones. It is regulated by circulating levels of calcium ion. It increases calcium levels in the blood. It acts on the bones and stimulates reabsorptions. It also stimulates reabsorptions of calcium ion by renal tubules and increases calcium ion absorption from the digested food. Concentration of calcium and phosphate is maintained by the parathyroid hormone and calcitonin. These two hormones form an antagonistic pair like insulin and glucagon. Now let's have a look at the disorders that could happen because of hyposecretion of parathyroid hormone, that is less secretion, lower concentrations of calcium in the blood. This increases excitability of the nerves and muscles, causing muscle twitching and spasm. This is called as parathyroid tetany or hypocalcemic tetany. Hypersecretion of parathormone is responsible for more absorption of calcium from the bones, that is demineralization of bones resulting in softening, bending and fracture of the bones. This is called as osteoporosis. It is common in women who have reached menopause. Thank you students for participating in this lecture. See you soon again with the next topic. Till then, take care, be safe and keep learning.